We like to think we know the rules of fear.
That danger hides in shadowy alleys, that monsters sleep in the dark.
But what if the horror doesn't wait for nightfall? What if it grows in the silence of a forgotten home, on a street just like yours, under the bright, unblinking eye of the sun? This is the story of a quiet neighborhood betrayed by its most familiar landmark. It's a tale of a smell that soured the air, a light that had no business existing, and a discovery so chilling it proved that sometimes the most terrifying things are not those that lurk in the dark, but those that dare to step into the light. Let us know where you are watching from, and what time you found this video. For weeks, the community of Sycamore Lane was under an assault of the senses. It wasn't just a scent. It was a bodily presence, a thick, sweet rotten miasma that stuck to the back of the throat and settled on the tongue like a nasty oil. It was the aroma of forgotten lunches left in a sun-baked vehicle, of a bouquet of flowers lost in murky water, of something truly organic and tragically wrong. It flowed from the old Victorian on the corner, a home that had always been a bit too silent, its windows like cataracted eyes.
The neighbors, a variety of young professionals and aged retirees, tried everything.
They searched their own garbage cans, their vents, their basements. They blamed a dead raccoon in the storm drain, then a damaged sewage line. But their eyes, unavoidably, were pulled back to the source, the Croft home. It had been abandoned for over a decade. Ever since the family Robert and Eliza Croft and their modest bookish daughter, Amelia, vanished between one sunset and the next. No farewell notes, no forwarding addresses, just quiet. The stuff of silent conjecture over garden fences, but the stillness didn't endure. Soon after their disappearance, the noises started. Not the expected moans of a collapsing ancient house, but percussive, repetitive thumps from the attic, like someone systematically dumping a big bag. Then followed the skittering, a dry, frenzied scratching that appeared to travel within the walls, too quick and too intentional for any regular rodent. The fragrance was the last straw. It escalated from an annoyance into an onslaught, so intense that the Henderson family 3 doors down could no longer have supper on their porch. Mrs. Gable, the street's oldest resident, who had witnessed 2 generations of neighbors come and go, eventually made the call. Her voice, weak and reedy with age, was filled with a dread that was infectious. "It's not an animal," she'd muttered to the 911 operator. "It's something different. You need to come, now." Within the hour, Sycamore Lane was a vision of flashing blue and red. 2 police vehicles, then a sergeant's SUV, built a perimeter. Officers Phillips and Chun, masks plastered with Vicks VapoRub beneath their noses, approached the front door. The lock fell apart with a splintering snap that resonated oddly in the dense air. The stink that reached them was a tangible wall, bypassing the menthol totally. It was the stench of a billion spores, of rotting on a tiny scale.
The inside was a time capsule, locked at the instant the Crofts departed.
A half-set dinner table was now a landscape of fuzzy, multicolored mold.
Upholstery collapsed in a condition of severe decay. But it was the walls that made Chun puke into his mask. They were not simple wallpaper. They were moving. A throbbing, veiny network of phosphorescent fungus blanketed every surface, floor to ceiling. It throbbed with a faint, sickly green glow, a horrible living tapestry. It wasn't simply on the walls, it was the walls. And inside the semi-translucent, gelatinous flesh of the fungus, they saw them. Shapes. Human forms. There was one beside the fireplace, distorted in a mute scream, the silhouette of a man. Another, smaller, was coiled near the stairs. A third was halfway up the steps, as if stuck in flight. They were like archaic insects caught in amber, their shapes completely preserved in the fungal matrix. "Base, we need EMES and hazmat, at this moment in time. Now!" Philip's voice was a choked scream across the air, his professionalism entirely destroyed. The outlines of the nightmare were drawn by the beams of their flashlights, which were quivering. The fungus mass appeared to breathe, its soft pulse pouring a new wave of stink into the room. Then they saw the source of the beating. High up in the cathedral ceiling, a massive heart-like sac of the fungus swelled and contracted continuously, slamming against the rafters with the same horrible thud they'd heard from outside. The skittering sound continued again, closer now. From a hole in the wall near the kitchen, a human hand, skeletal and encased in the luminous fungus, twitched and scrabbled against the floors. It was not a ghost. It was something far worse. The creature that was eating the body from the inside out was controlling it like a puppet, and it was a lingering neurological impulse. The body had not yet been completely digested. The Crofts had never departed from the premises. They had already been digested and converted into energy. As horror gripped their heads, the terrible reality gradually started to form in their minds. The family had not relocated to a different location. They had been infected by something that was present in this home, a spore that had been expelled from some forgotten corner of the earth. A biological aberration that had developed in the darkness, or so it was thought. Perhaps it had released a neurotoxic, which is a substance that has the potential to paralyze and that would have frozen them in place before it began the long process of absorption. It would have woven their bodies and the entire structure of their home together to create a single, terrifying ecosystem. The police force retreated, stumbling over one another as they did so. Their perception of the world had been shattered beyond repair. They have not located any locations that might be classified as a crime scene. They had discovered a hive. A mechanism of digestion. There was a stomach constructed of wood and plaster, and its last meal was still in the process of being devoured in a manner that was sluggish and painful. And as they rushed out into the fresh air, choking and crying, the faint, rhythmic pounding from the attic continued the beating heart of the home, assuring that the horror on Sycamore Lane was very, very much alive.